Good day, race fans. We're going to talk about the first quarter of the season, and we're going to discuss some drivers from the playoffs last year, and go right ahead.
And we got the first 9 races through the 36 race schedule, and we got the playoff drivers from last year and seeing how they're doing this year. We got the old versus the young.
All right. I'm the young.
You pretty much.
Okay, we'll roll with that. All right, so who are we talking about first?
Well, we got last year's champion, this year's defending champion, who last year, he had an amazing year no matter which way you put it. 10 wins, an all-star race win, 20 top 5s, 26 top 10s, set a record for like the most laps led in a single season in the modern era. He was just dominant without a doubt last year. And well, this year, I mean, he's had a solid start because when he's had expectations through the roof. But I mean, besides a win at California in race 2, which that was a pretty exciting win if you remember correctly. I remember correctly. And well,
all right. So what are you going to give him for a grade then?
Well, considering that he fallen from first to he's now 9th in points, I gotta go B minus.
Okay. I too had sky high expectations for Kyle Larson, as did the entire NASCAR world. There's no doubt that this guy looked like he was posed to be a guy that would contend for every single race. He's fallen below expectations. He's having a good year, but not a great year, and I absolutely agree. I'm going to give him a B minus. He's obviously better than an average driver. He'd be in the playoffs today. He'd give people fits in the playoffs, but even so, yeah, he has not met expectations at this point.
Our next driver is last year's runner-up, 4 wins this year, tied for second most. Martin Truex Jr., or as some people like to call him, T-Rex. Last year was pretty good, 4 wins, and, well, second points. You can't get much better than that than finishing first. Compared to this year, he's been on a streak of some rough races as of late, but he's only fallen to 7th in points, which may not be awesome, but does have 3 stage wins this year, and he's doing pretty solid. So, I mean, you know.
All right. Well, I'm going to speak from the heart here. Martin Truex Jr. is my man. He has been one of the most consistent drivers over the last several years. Obviously, came close to the championship last year. This year, he's had some good races and he's had some bad races. Obviously, I'd like to see him doing a little bit better. I don't believe overall that Joe Gibbs Racing is really doing as well as we might have expected them to. And Martin Truex Jr. is having a slightly above average year for a NASCAR driver. I gave him a B. I believe that he obviously is probably not excited about his season any more than I am, but I do believe he's going to turn it around, and I believe that he's been very solid for the most part. So yeah, B for me.
Well, I gotta disagree with you. I give him a B minus because that's solely because he's on a string of just absolutely horrendous races. I love Truex. He's my second guy when it comes to races, and that's all that fun stuff. But what does help? He has 3 stage wins. That's pretty important. The parity this year's been through the roof.
Lots of laps led. He's in the races that he's stayed in, he's been very competitive. But yeah, he's had a couple of pretty nasty races too.
So I gotta give him B minus. Our next guy up, Denny Hamlin. Last year was thought of as maybe be the first driver in a Cup to go winless in a championship season. 2 wins last year, Darlington and Vegas, which were in the playoffs. So if you're gonna get your first win season, might as well be in the playoffs, right? So he made the Final 4. Really consistent. Almost won the regular season title last year, and he came in 3rd in the championship race. But then ever since that day, with the new next gen car, and to this season to the 9 races, he has just been absolutely atrocious. Barring a win at Richmond, which is a miracle of its own right, if it weren't for that one win, we could be thinking of, is Hamlin going to just retire this year? He might. I mean, it's just a real question and possibility. He has FedEx backing him, but man, he needs to do something and do something quick to change things around. You can't just get one win and then every other race you DNF. It's just Hamlin's an F plus. That's only because of his win. That's the dumbest grade ever.
Yeah, and this is the one driver that we're in pretty strong agreement on. Hamlin couldn't possibly be worse this year. It's actually shocking, surprising, and nobody saw this coming. No one would have ever dreamed that Denny Hamlin would have gone from a race contending driver week in and week out to a national disgrace. And if not for that win, I couldn't give him an F. I'd have to give him a G or an H. He has been poor. But like Devin, I'm inclined to say that a win is a win, and you can't take that away from him. He'll be in the playoffs, and who knows? He may make a comeback towards the end.
If he stays in the top 30 points.
Yeah, that's hard not to. So yeah, I would say that a F plus is a very accurate assessment. He can't really go above that. He just hasn't done anything else but that one win.
No. Well, our next driver is the 2020 Cup champion and probably going to be the most popular driver for the next 5 million years, Chase Elliott, or Bill Elliott, whichever you want to call him. He's having a pretty solid season. Not pretty solid, pretty good year. Silent good year. He was 4th last year in the Final Four race, but this year he's leading the points. There's really not much more for me to say about him this year. I mean, he hasn't really done a lot. He's been quiet but super consistent. He led a bunch of laps at Martinsville. If you remember, he had like 200 or something laps at Martinsville.
Right.
I give him an A plus just because he's leading the points.
Yeah, what can you say? I don't know if it's just because our expectations of Elliott are so high. We've discussed Chase Elliott, and it just doesn't seem like this guy ought to be in the points lead.
No.
It just feels like that week in and week out, although he's not horrible, it just feels like that he's kind of a top 10 sort of a guy that not a whole lot more than that. But the fact of the matter does remain, the guy has 6 top 10s. He is Chase Elliott, favorite driver of everyone except us. And yeah, he's led a lot of laps, got a couple of stage wins, very solid, better than his teammate, better than Kyle Larson. So that's actually kind of shocking. And yeah, what can you say? Got to give the guy an A+.
Much as we don't want to. All right, our next guy, another stinker, Happy Harvick. Last year was a rough year, went winless, but he still had a few top 5s, 23 top 10s, finished 5th in points. And of course, the year prior, 2020, had just a stupidly good season, 9 wins. That doesn't matter because he didn't win anything and win the title. 2021, Stewart-Haas Racing, they sucked. You can't deny it. They just were bad to the bone. And Harvick, I mean, he's been okay this year. He's got 3 top 10s in the first 9 races, where in last season, in the first 3 races, he had 3 top 10s. That should say something. If nothing does, I gotta give him a D. He's currently running 13th in points, which is okay. It's in the playoffs, but we expect that. We expect that out of somebody of Harvick's caliber. Easy Hall of Famer, 58 wins, a champion. You expect that.
Right. What happened? 2020 happened, and then after that, it just seems like the Kevin Harvick disappeared off the face of the earth. This year, he's not been that. I don't feel that he's been absolutely wretched. You look up every race, it feels like, he for a while he'll be up in the front of the pack, and then all of a sudden the race is over, and he just isn't really doing all that well. He's nowhere near Kevin Harvick expectations. We got to give him some kind of a break. The guy is 4 billion years old, but at the same time, he's Kevin Harvick, future Hall of Famer. Still got a ton of talent. Hard to imagine what actually is happening here, but yeah, I believe I'd have to give the guy a D+. I would say he is as good as an average driver in NASCAR, but we just expect more than that of him.
Well, our next guy is one that we easily agree on. Brad Keselowski, otherwise known as Bad Brad. He had a good year. He had a pretty solid year last year. had a win at Talladega, which may not be the best I can, say, you had a great year if you win Talladega. But we forget, that's his 6th Talladega win. That's no easy task. He was consistent last year. Made the playoffs, made the round of 8, finished 6th in points, which is all right. It's not top 5, but it's better than most can ever do in their career. And he was just, it's hard to beat it, but he had a solid year last year. But this year, he left Team Penske, where he was for 11 seasons, won a championship, 34 wins with that team. The 2-car, leaves that to go to Roush Fenway, become a partial owner, and name it to Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. That's a dumb name. To now, he started the year off good. He won his dual race for the 500 qualifying races. But then after that, he ran well in the 500, but man, he was on a murder spree in that race. He wrecked Harrison Burton, caused a whole bunch of wrecks. He made Harrison Burton do barrel rolls on his own. It's like, when they say bad Brad, they really mean it.
Yeah, it may have to be downgraded from bad Brad to maybe worse Brad, because it's been pretty bad this year.
It doesn't help that he was running mediocre at best, running top 20 to top 15 after the 500 where he finished, I think it was 9th in the 500. After that, he's been okay, but I think it was after either Atlanta or Coda where he was bopped with one of the biggest penalties in NASCAR history. It was an L2 penalty because they got penalized for something they did to the car on the back quarter panel area, which NASCAR does not want teams cheating with this next gen. They do not want that. And they talk about how they're going to penalize you, and they're going to penalize you massively if you get caught. RFK got caught, docked 100 points, and if you're new to the sport and be let in, nowadays, like say you're in first, that's 40 because there's 40 cars in the field. First, 40 points, makes sense, point per spot. That's just to explain it quickly. 100 points, that's almost 3 whole races just gone.
Right. And let's give him back the 100 points. And sadly, the way the math works out, he still wouldn't make the playoffs, even if you give him back the 100 points. Brad Keselowski, it was a funny thing because if you looked up and watched the race during the Daytona 500, it's like, wow, this guy is aggressive. He's fast. It looks like he's just going to have a great year, and they're off to a great start. But after the Daytona 500, it seemed like, his dirtiness in the 500 almost came back to haunt him, and it seems like nothing has gone right for him since. He's been simply terrible, statistically dead. There's really nothing that you can say. I think he maybe he's got 1 top 10. So, yeah, by every stretch of the imagination, things are going wrong for Brad Keselowski. He is an easy F.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Just big old fat F. I just can't believe that, to be honest. I didn't expect him to be winning races, but I expected at least top 15s, top 10s, more top 10s than just Daytona. So yeah, that sucks. Well, our next driver is a way more positive subject and less depressing. Ryan Blaney. He's done everything except win a race this year. Leads over 100 laps, wins poles, wins stages, gets top 10s, top 5s. He's just been so consistent this year, but hasn't gotten that win. It must be some curse he has, because in the 8 or 9 races where he leads over 100 laps, his best finish was 7th 3 times. So I guess if he doesn't lead 100 laps in a race, or if he does, you might as well count him out. But other than that, he was 7th in points last year, and now he's 2nd, only behind Chase Elliott. I put him at an A+. He's been really well.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add to that. Blaney has been nothing short of spectacular. He has, although the expectations for him were high, he has still exceeded them. Everything about him looks really, really good. He looks good every race. He's up front. So yeah, I don't know what I'd talked about before, but I'm going to give him an A+. There's just no way not to.
And not just that, he had 3 wins last year, so that should say something considering years prior he had only had 1 win a year. So he might win a lot this year. Well, our next driver is my main man, the guy I love with all my heart, old Jolo Logano. This year's been weird. Last year was, for me as a Logano fan, just absolutely horrendous. It was a decent year. A win, 10 top 5s, 19 top 10s, 8th points, made the round of 8, win at Bristol Dirt. But, man, it felt like after Bristol Dirt, everything just kind of fell off from contending for wins because he almost won the Daytona Road course early in the year, but got beat up by Christopher Bell. Almost won Phoenix, but Truex edged him out last year. He was close to winning a bunch of races in the beginning of the year. The last year's 500, he was leading on the last lap. He may have done a bad block, but McDowell won, so I guess that made up for that loss. But this year, it's been better. I think it's overall been better, more consistent. He's gotten those top 5s and top 10s. And Richmond, if it weren't for Richmond, he'd had pretty much the same stats as he did at the beginning of last season, the first quarter, where right now he's got, no wins, but 1 runner-up in Martinsville, 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s, that's pretty solid. I don't know about you, but that's pretty solid to me. I give him an A. I give him an A just because he is 3rd in points, which you can't beat that unless you're Blaney or Elliott, other than those 2 guys. And I would give him A+, just because of bias, but he hasn't won, and I gotta think with my brain, not my heart.
Yeah, we're in agreement on Logano. Logano's got a lot of momentum right now. He's been running very well lately, and he hasn't, even at his worst, he hasn't been wretched. He's having a very, very good year. He has improved over last year, and another thing that can be said about him is that I don't think Talladega is going to go good for him, and I'll tell you why. After watching the Fords today in qualifying, they were a herd of turtles in the peanut butter river. They were behind the Chevys, behind the Toyotas, all of them. Joey was the fastest one, but we're just grading what's actually happened so far. Logano, give him an A.
Well, the one thing I did say for Talladega is the cars are usually the slowest in qualifying. That's because they're saving something up. And just to let you guys in a secret, Logano's running his normal Pennzoil car with Auto Trader on the side. Last time he ran that car at Talladega in 2018, he also snapped a 36 race plus winless streak. So, not to believe in superstition, but
Oh, and I think it's just because the car's so ugly, nobody wanted to get close to it.
All right. Our next driver is, as we've nicknamed him because he's slow as Christmas Kyle. Old Kyle Busch. He was solid last year. 2 wins, Kansas, Pocono, which Pocono was an insanely impressive win. Had a broken gearbox and still managed to win Pocono out of pure spite. So that'll show his immense talent. Nothing will, and you're stupid. So he was really solid last year. I mean, made the playoffs, made the round of 8. He may have only finished 9th in points, but that didn't really show for how he almost dumped his way in to the championship for, but obviously he didn't. And excuse me again. This year he's been pretty solid, been consistent. Almost won Vegas. Probably should have won Vegas, but should have, would have, could have. Are not here or now. And he's been solid this year. He's had the top 10s, the top 5s, and last week had a very exciting win at Old Bristol Dirt, which for you guys is his 9th Bristol win, if you want to count it as 8 pavement wins. It's been just a good year for Kyle Busch. He goes from being 9th to currently running 6th in points this year. And I give him a good old B+.
Yeah, so far Kyle Busch has been the star of Joe Gibbs Racing. He has alluded recently to all kinds of strange things, almost to the point where you start to wonder if he's thinking retirement. He doesn't seem to be exactly real happy with Joe Gibbs and his sponsorship situation right now. But all that being said, I think that Kyle Busch actually is starting to look like the old Kyle Busch. Since I've started watching racing in 2000, he had a bad year for him in 2021, 2020 and 2021. Wow, 2000, I don't know about that. But he seems to me to be looking better and better. He's stronger and stronger. If he can just keep his headworms in check, it's Kyle Busch is always saying crazy things, and who knows how that translates to the track. But yeah, he's having a pretty good year, and I'm thinking A- for Kyle Busch.
Well, you started watching back in 2020. I started watching in 2018. I got to see the old, dominant, beastly Kyle Busch those 2 years. 8 wins 2018, 5 wins 2019. And I got to admit, this is very similar to how he was.
He's starting to look better. That's for sure.
Really is. Better than the last 2 years for sure. All right, well, our next driver is old Bill Byron, or William Byron if you're simple. Last year was a breakout season for him. He had a win at Homestead early in the year, led over 100 laps, and that may have been his only win, but he was in third in points for a bunch of races. Had 11 straight top 10s, and no matter who you are, what season, what sport you're in, 11 straight top 10s in NASCAR's highest level, that's impressive. That's just flat out impressive. Made the playoffs last year, was eliminated in the round of 12, but the round of 12 does have those 2 wild cards in Talladega and the Charlotte Roval. So there's bound to be some madness happening. And, well, he was solid, and he finally got the top 10 points finished 10th in points, and, well, he's currently running 4th in points, which may not be where he was last year in 3rd, but he's got 2 wins this year, maybe 3 if he had played it better at Richmond. He just destroyed Martinsville with an iron fist. Atlanta, that was a plate win. It may not be a plate track, but it might as well have been. So 2 wins this year, most wins this year too. Only driver with multiple wins this year. Easy A+.
Yeah. Billy B is a beast, and I'm going to go ahead and throw down the gauntlet for all of the Elliott fans and all of the Larson fans. William Byron is the future of NASCAR. He's going to be the dominant driver over the next 10 years. This guy is good, and he's having a great year. He got a couple of DNFs is the only thing that keeps him from very easily being the points leader right now. He's been absolutely dominant every time he goes out. He's fast. He's got a lot of talent. This guy is, he's the future of NASCAR. So, yeah, you heard it here first.
Well, our next driver is someone who...
Oh, A+, by the way.
Well, our next driver is somebody who used to be the future of NASCAR. He is the oldest tenured driver in the Cup Series. Old Kurt Busch, older brother of Kyle Busch. Last year was a good and bad year. If you look at it in 2 parts in a way, from the first Atlanta race up to Sonoma, or up to the second Atlanta race, you can take that. If you throw that chunk of the season away, it's a great year. Put that chunk back in. It's hard to tell really how last year really was. He was solid last year. Had that really good win in Atlanta when he was battling his brother Kyle Busch. Led over, I think it was like 300 something laps, which that's a little bit of laps to lead. I don't think it was 300. I think I'm too much. I think it might have been 100. It is only in a big track. My bad. But yeah, good year for Kurt Busch last year. Was eliminated in the round of 16, but he had a tire go down at Richmond, which that never helps you if you DNF a race, no matter who you are, what race you're in, what playoff round you're in. So he finished 11th in points with 1 win, which was at Atlanta, as I said. Whereas this year, he did make the switch to 2311, because if you've kept track, Trackhouse bought Chip Ganassi Racing, which is where he used to drive in the 1 car. Well, 2311, the new team from last year's new team, which is owned by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, they picked him up to drive the 45 Toyota Monster Energy. And this year's been weird. When he's good, but his team, I think, is where he gets failed. And sometimes he just runs poor. Either good or bad. He has 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s, but he's currently went from 11th in points last year to 20th. But the thing is, when we look back at Richmond, where the thing ran out of fuel on lap 10, which is weird to see. It's just insane. I have high expectations for Kurt Busch, but I think Kurt Busch is just carrying 2311 on his back right now. Because every team Kurt Busch has ever gone to, he's made them better every time. You go to when he went to Penske, he made them better. When the Furniture Row, made them better, made the chase. When the Stewart Haas, made them better, won 6 times, won the 500, goes to Chip Ganassi Racing, makes the playoffs all 3 years, and contends for a title. So, I mean, he's probably going to win a race this year, undoubtedly, even though he is old as dirt. I hate to say it, but I'm giving him a B minus.
All right, so yeah, old as dirt, Kurt. I'm not very excited about the year he's having at all. 2311 Racing, I feel like is a disappointment at this point. Will they improve? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they will. And Kurt Busch, yeah, he is the grizzled veteran, a very fine driver, a great talent. But if we're just going on the product of this year, it's been a disappointing year. If you know, for anybody that's a Kurt Busch fan, and I like Kurt Busch, I just don't feel like he's having a great year, and I'm going to have to go with a C plus on this one.
All right. Well, the next guy we got is a guy who actually had a win last year and had a pretty solid sophomore season. Oh, Christopher Bell. Had a good year last year. You know, won the Daytona Road Course, made the playoffs, made the round of 12, was eliminated, and really wasn't that spectacular year. He almost won New Hampshire, but Almirola was just better, and also that race was shortened due to darkness because New Hampshire doesn't have lights, weirdly. But yeah, 12th in points, not much to say about that from last year. But this year, he was terrible in those first five to six races. He was struggling to stay in the top 30 in points. He was at one point out of the top 30 in points. He was playing off for a little bit. Just terrible. But then he slowly made a comeback, ever so slightly, and well, he's now 15th in points, barely in the playoffs. He's like on that last seed in pretty much. And so, I mean, he hasn't done much. I mean, he just won the pole today for Talladega because the Toyotas are so stupid fast. And yeah, I gotta give him a B minus because you can't start a year out like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chris Bell in a little bit different lens there. I feel like that he's on the cusp of really having a decent year. I believe he's going to get a win this year. He's going to be in the playoffs. I believe that he's an up and coming driver. He's a talent. He has had a few top tens. He's showed pretty well in the last few races. I believe he's got good momentum on his side right now, and I definitely feel like he's a better than average driver. I can safely give Chris Bell a B plus.
All right. Well, our next driver is one of my favorite drivers in the Cup Series, Tyler Reddick. I mean, he was a beast in Xfinity, back-to-back titles, 2018, 2019. Has 9 wins in the Xfinity Series, so he was pretty solid in what would be for baseball terms, the minor leagues. Cut up the Cup to RCR in the 8 car in 2020. It's a solid rookie year, 9 top 10s. Doesn't make the playoffs. But then last year, he started the year off pretty poor. Then came Homestead, second. People thought he was going to have a sophomore slump. Red's like, I don't know what that is, pretty much. 16 top 10s, few top 5s. Made the playoffs. So that's pretty solid if you ask me, and almost won a few times. Couldn't have rolled one and Homestead. So this year, after finishing 13th in points last year, he has gone up to 11th in points, but he had a great start to the year. Almost won Auto Club, probably should have won Auto Club. Led 93 laps, I believe. Was on pole, if I remember correctly. And he was dominant, but he cut a tire down, and then Byron just decimated him pretty much in that race. Then he's been a bit silent and considered ever since. Then come Bristol Dirt last week. He was dominating the latter half of that race. And he was leading in the final corner, but then Chase Briscoe, as many people probably predicted, made a bonsai move, sent it in, going for the win, final lap. And just so you guys know, Reddick hasn't won a race yet. And so Reddick gets dumped for what could have been his first career win. Kyle Busch wins it, as we talked about earlier. Reddick's having a good year, going to have a good year. If he wins this year, Byron, you better hope he doesn't. So I gave Reddick an easy A. He's going to be a threat for the title.
Right, we're in agreement on Reddick. This guy is also one of the great young drivers in NASCAR right now. A guy that's going to win a lot of races. He's going to have a lot of success, and some of that success is going to be this year. He won't finish 11th, I don't think, in points. I think he'll be a little higher than that. The guy's already got 3 top 5s. He's just been there every race, it seems like. This guy is an easy A.
Yeah. Well, our next driver is somebody who had their breakout season last year. Alex Bowman, the showman.
The hack.
Who backs into wins. Had 4 wins last year in the 48 car, which that old Jimmy Johnson fans are pretty happy to see that 48 car be fast and win races in weird fashions. So, had a good year. Had 16 top 10s, made the playoffs. Was a round of 12 exit though, so say what you will about that. And his consistency in the playoffs was finished 14th in points. Not much you can say about that. At least it was top 15. He's currently sitting 5th in points, so this year through 9 races. He won Vegas, which, as Kyle Busch would like to say, is the same guy who backs into every win every week. Won that race in pretty dramatic fashion against old Kyle Larson, last year's dominant guy. Well, this year, Bowman's almost won Coda, was there in the last lap. That was an amazing finish of its own. I think we can agree on that when Ross Chastain stole the win. So, yeah, Bowman's pretty good. I give him an A. Solid A.
Yeah, Bowman also, he did break out last year, and yes, I do not believe Bowman is a hack. He's a very fine driver with a lot of talent, with a very, very bright future, sitting on 5 top 10s. Yeah. How has this guy only led 16 laps this year? I don't understand how he could have only led 16 laps this year, but other than that, he's pretty shiny this year, and he's going to be for a long time in the future. Yeah, easy A.
All right. Our next driver is somebody who had an absolutely abysmal 2021, but no due part to his own. Eric Almirola, solid driver, 3 Cup wins, won last year in New Hampshire in very impressive fashion. Wasn't just a luck win, like, oh, he just backed into it, or ooh, rain. No, he wheeled that thing like it was like his career depended on, which probably really did. Won New Hampshire dominantly, well, not obviously dominant, but he wheeled it. He was a wheel man that day last year, in a year where, at that point, we only had 2 other top 10s. And 1 top 5, another at Richmond. Last year was terrible. Stuart Haas was terrible last year. Makes the playoffs. He was easily eliminated in the round of 16. But he had 2 more top 10s before the year was out in Martinsville and Phoenix, and really just another year for Almirola. At least you could put that to sleep. And of course, we all know he's going to retire this year, which is pretty sad. I do actually like Almirola. So he finished 15th in points last year, and he's currently sitting at 12th in points right now. He's, as old Tim said earlier, steady Eddie. Run 12th. He always does this every year. Besides, last year, we don't talk about last year. That wasn't a real year, didn't exist. So give him just a solid B+.
Right. I'm pretty much on that same bandwagon, and Eric Almirola really is the steady Eddie of NASCAR. He's a guy that you can count on to go in, week out, to take care of his equipment, to finish well. He's competitive. He'll shake out a win now and then. And it is going to be sad to see Almirola go. He's one of the good guys of the sport, I believe. So yeah, it'll be a sad day for him to retire. But I certainly hope to see him make the playoffs, and I know he's going to be on the tail end if he does. But I'm going to predict that he'll pull out a playoff spot, and he'll show well for himself. And he's a B all the way.
I say he wins New Hampshire. Calling that. All right. Well, our last and final driver before this video has to end is Michael McDowell. Last year's underdog story, probably the last decade. Won the Daytona 500, the biggest race you could win for your first career win. McDowell, of course, was good previous years, for Front Row Motorsports, a small team, my favorite team ever in NASCAR. I love Front Row. Had a good year. Had 3 straight top 10 start the season out. Me and you both thought, man, this guy, he might be a title threat maybe. I was really early on, but still, hopes were there. He was solid. Ended up only getting, he only had 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s in total last season. But I mean, that was a career best. He probably could have had more top 10s, had luck gone more his way. But we saw he was tough to gain points for a majority of the year. But as you saw, front row having small team issues, starting to reuse equipment, as you could tell. So he started faltering off in later year. And when it come playoff time, he was there, but bad luck bit him. And 16th in points it was. And well, this year, it's really not that much awesomer. I mean, he's doing what McDowell does. Gets top 10s here and there, which he has 2 of. In the 500 where he finished 7th, and 1 at Bristol Dirt last week where he finished 9th. And he's currently sitting at 26th in points. Not the prettiest thing ever, but not the ugliest thing ever. So I give him just a solid C, because for McDowell standards, it's pretty Michael-y.
Yeah, and I couldn't have said that better. He really is having a Michael McDowell year. He's not dreadful, but became a big Michael McDowell fan after he crashed old Blubber Walrus in the All-Star qualifier, or whatever that was. And of course, yeah, Bubba called him a joke or whatever, and so that was the household joke that we would call McDowell the joke. And after that, though, it seemed like it kind of lit a fire under him, and he did have a string where he was better than Michael-y, I would say. And I think that Michael McDowell is having the kind of year you would expect from him in the equipment he's in, and given what he has to work with. I think that he is a solid C. He is the face of an average NASCAR driver.
And I forgot to mention, he's running pretty good for right at front row. Small team issues being small team issues. They're a small team. They don't have the smart. I'm not calling them dumb. They don't have the Hendrick guys or the Penske guys or the JGR guys or the new car. They can adapt quicker. So that also goes into why he isn't, as higher in points as we hope he is and what he's capable of. So keep that in consideration when we thought about that. That's why we give him a C, because it's front row.
All right, so to close this out, let's pick the winner for Talladega. Who's going to win?
All right, well, because I'm a biased swine, Joey Logano, 22, snaps his dumb 38 race winless streak, because I love Logano and I love winning. And I hate losing. I say Logano wins, and I get to cry happy tears.
All right, so I'm not predicting any of the Fords to do well tomorrow at all. They just look so crummy in qualifying. And I do know that they have good success to plate tracks. I'm going to pick a guy that never went Talladega in the Cup Series, but was nasty fast today in qualifying. I'm going to go with my favorite driver, Martin Truex Jr.
A bias reigns supreme tonight.
Right, so we're voting with the heart today. I haven't picked Truex for a win, except Martinsville all season, and he disappointed me there, but I think he's going to do fine. Hope you guys have a great night. Enjoy the Talladega race, the rest of the NASCAR season, and we'll talk to you in a while.
Make sure